in to bring you your fix of everything related to the Montreal Canadiens. Two men who could seriously use an intervention. Your source of Habs talk, right from the rock. Right from the rock.
Hello, Canada and hockey fans, United States and Newfoundland.
Hockey Junkie and GK.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode number 9 of the Fix Podcast. My name is Matt, also known as Hockey Junkie, and joining me today is Gary. And Gary, we got a shit ton of stuff to talk about, my friend.
Oh, buddy.
Never ending. The playoffs are underway. We're into the Stanley Cup Final now. The Habs have been eliminated. Lane Hutson wins the Calder. And the emergence of a brand new prospect that nobody's even heard of before. I'm talking Gary Green. Nobody knows who he is. But I've been scouting him. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was scouting him in St. John's, and I'm telling you, when Gary Green comes up to the rankings, man,
Look out.
Is he eligible this year? I need to know.
He was eligible in 2024.
Okay. So, wait, so we got...
Oh, no, wait, it was 2004.
I was going to say, don't make yourself any younger than you are there, Gary. Now, bit of an overager, right?
A little bit. Just a
Bit
little
of it.
bit.
Some guys, they got to work up through the ranks. You know what I mean?
Not
You
this
gotta,
guy.
Not this guy, no.
Not this guy.
This
Good
guy did
work
it right
ethic.
away. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, we were in St. John's, me and Gary, and we were in there for Hockey Ups, the homeless. Big Earn was in there, Brian McGrattan, Terry Ryan, Dolo from Shoresy. Gary was on the same team as Dolo. Had a good time. What was he like?
He was awesome, man. I must say, down to earth, great guy to tell the story. Have a laugh in the dressing room. It was a good time. Yeah.
How about that guy going around in his robe, just drinking all the time? I bet that
My
guy's
God. So we get to the dressing room. This is a complete honest story. So Dolo comes in and we're having a chat. And then this guy walks in. He's a bit older. His hair's all fuzzed up. He's like, "Where's the red wine?" And everyone's like, "What?" And then, so I'm playing on this team as a free agent. I don't know anybody. I just came along with you when they put me on this team, and the crowd from Belfort was the team I played for, and the guys they were all awesome. This guy was like their HR manager or something. So he was based in Ontario and just came in for this tournament. And so he's going around in between games with a chalice of red wine. It was Ryan Gretzky 99 Chardonnay in his glass and a full-on bathrobe on. That's all he wore for the whole day.
What a legend, man.
And Dolo's like, "Man, we got to write this guy into the show."
Even after the games, like he was up. Remember we were eating lunch up in the lunchroom. He was up there just strutting around in his robe, and he's got the wine glass in his hand the whole time.
Nicest kind of guy, hilarious. Like he had a whole vibe going on, man. He just not a single given. You know what I mean? It was great. So that was a good laugh. I got chat with Dolo a lot, man. He told us about him, told everyone, but we were chatting just about how we came up through, and he actually, I think he was playing hockey. How they found him for the show for Shoresy is that he was playing in a game and these fans were chirping him, and they actually climbed over the glass to fight these fans. That's true. And this actually happened when he was playing, and it was because they were chirping his family essentially in the stands, and so that's what built up to it. There was a good backstory to it, but so he got into a fight with the fans in the stands at his own hockey game that he was playing on, and I guess that's where he kind of got noticed by the casting on Shoresy. Plus, he's an excellent hockey player, obviously. What a beauty! So he was like, they called me up, and he's like, they sent him an email, and he's like, I wasn't even answering this email. It's I just assumed it was bullshit. And then he said to one of the guys, no, that's real, man. And he called him and got hooked up, and then he was on the show, and now we're in season 5, I think. So great guy, man. We had a great chat. So it was good times. And I mean, what a great experience. If you ever get a chance to play, anybody out there or get an offer to play, or if it's in your region, you can put a team into this. It's a great experience. The stories we listened to, and we were only in there, we were in there because it was on a weekday here in Newfoundland. So we were kind of in and out, but they had socials afterwards, and they went out and had drinks with these players, and I'm sure we only get the tip of the iceberg for some of these stories. So if you ever get a chance to participate in this, we're going to put a team in next year. Junky's going to coach.
Yeah, we got to.
Yeah.
100%.
And the Green story is I was late, obviously, signing up for this, and they didn't have a jersey with my name on it. So I ended up wearing, I don't know who Green was, but he was the star that weekend.
And now he's you.
And now he's
great. And all this time we've been looking for a good nickname. Yeah, I mean, we've been looking for a good nickname. Gary Potter's come up a few times. There's been a bunch of them, right? There's been some pretty good ones. Absolutely. You know, the viewers, they get creative sometimes, but man, Gary Green now is, I don't know if I can ever call you anything different. Oh, it does, yeah. Green
I'll
Gary. Man, before we move on though from hockey ops to almost, like, I just want to talk about like those guys. They've been out of the league for a while now. Brian McGrattan has been playing in a couple of years. Terry Ryan's been out for quite some time, but man, still just excellent hockey player. Like, it's unbelievable how good these guys are when you're watching them on the ice. They can just fly when they want to, man. And Brian McGrattan is the most intimidating man that I've ever seen. Like, just a monster, eh?
He's massive. Yeah, he's massive.
He is.
Like,
for sure.
The story he told about fighting Ty Domi was legendary, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was a beauty, man.
Like,
what a dude.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, like I said, if you ever get a chance to go and participate in this event, if it's in your town, it's for a great cause, yes, but you'll enjoy every second of it, man. It was great. Yeah, it was so fun.
Wicked time.
We had a good red wine in the dressing rooms, so
yeah. I don't think you're going.
If you're 40 plus, don't have too many beers the night before and go in for an 8 o'clock game. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that was brutal. I wasn't even playing. It was still bad. I could only imagine you.
It wasn't good. Plus, I hadn't played hockey for like 4 weeks at that time too, so it wasn't great. But anyways, I made it through.
You did good.
And we rallied. We rallied. Yeah,
you scored a goal, and you leveled that guy.
I did. That was an accident, but he had it come.
Nah, you caught him with his chin down. You were watching some.
I did come out with the puck there.
You did, yeah. You did good, man. I was proud.
I'm glad. That's why I was there.
Exactly, right. Make me proud. Mission accomplished. You know who else made me proud though? The Habs, man. Absolutely. We got to talk a little bit about that. Well, obviously, this is a Habs.
A lot about the Habs, probably.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about the Habs.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Man, did good all season. Gets into a playoff position. A lot of people didn't see it coming at the beginning of the year. I mean, that was mind-blowing enough that they got into the playoffs. Young team, Absolutely. Youngest team in NHL history to do it. They sneak in. And, I mean, a lot of those games against Washington, man, were close games. I don't care what anyone says. They gave the Caps a good run. That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously you want them to go deep. Every time you're watching the game, you want them to win. You want them to go deep. But if you put it in perspective and say, listen, at the beginning of the season, had I told you we were going to lose to the Washington Capitals in the first round of the playoffs, take them to 5 games, you'd be like, you're not even getting into the playoffs, let alone, getting the game off the team, the best team in the Eastern Conference. So I think you can only take positives from it, and I think you take it as a reward as a Habs fan for our patience over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Because at the end of the day, man, like, if we're being honest, I didn't think that this fan base had that much patience in them.
No.
But I think the messaging was right from Hughes, and there was steady growth throughout. Like, you could see the moves being made that we're moving the team slowly in the right direction. And now we're tasting the fruits of our labor here now.
You know something though? I bet if Jeff Molson told Mark Bergevin, look, I want you to be the one that's going to rebuild this team right now. Like, start from scratch, blow it up and rebuild it. I don't know if he gets the same. You know what I mean? I don't know if fans are as patient with Mark Bergevin, especially after already being the general manager for years. You know what I'm saying?
You're like starting over at that point, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, I mean, Mark Bergevin gets a bad rap, and there's a lot of moves that Mark Bergevin made that I agree with. I thought by and large he did a good job with the Montreal Canadiens. I thought two things that kind of, and we're way off topic. All things we can talk about current. We're talking about Mark Bergevin, but two things happened from Mark Bergevin. The first was that he was afraid to make the big move. Like you got Carey Price in net. He needs goal scoring. You got to take a swing, man. You got to bring in a talent. You got to give up talent to get it. And he was never willing to do that. And maybe, you can look at that and say, well, he didn't have the assets to do that and yada, yada, yada. But, he had first round picks. He had, young players he could have dealt to make a splash or a pile of picks or whatever the case might have been. But I felt like he was apprehensive to make the big swing, and maybe he looked at it as, if I bring in one guy, I still don't have a team, but you had Carey Price. So you got to get some goal scoring. So that's one for Marc Bergevin. And to me, the other thing for Marc Bergevin that kind of screwed him from the get-go was that too. But with Carey Price, you could never get bad enough. Like, look at the rosters that Carey Price made the playoffs with. Look at the rosters that he made deep into the playoffs with. There was no way with Price in net you were going to finish bottom of the league. It just couldn't happen. When Price was healthy, you were at least a middle of the league team and probably better. So even with a bad roster, you couldn't be bad enough to get good. And when Price moved on and new management took over, that wasn't an issue anymore. We could easily be bad enough, and we were a couple of years in a row. And now we're seeing the fruits of that labor pay off, or the fruits of that patience pay off. And I think, you say what you want about Marc Bergevin, but at the end of the day, you can't get good in the NHL right now unless you get bad first and stay bad for a little while. And every team that's good right now can attest to that. Except for the Vegas Golden Knights, of course. They don't count.
Nah, the Golden Shower Knights like to come. Man, what this new management team has done, though, is pretty incredible when you look at it, because not only did they get a few first-round picks and they hit on Slavkovsky. I'm happy with the Slavkovsky pick. Linebacker, we still don't really know. Demidov, I can't say we know, but, like, come on. Right? We're certain.
It looks like we know. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we know. But like, aside from that too, this Lane Hutson pick at 62nd overall, man. I mean, if you redo that draft, he's probably going first or second, Gary. Like, and he's
going first.
Yeah, just wins the Calder trophy now this year. And at the beginning of the season, if you looked at who the favorites were, I mean, there was a lot of people that didn't even have him in the conversation. There was a lot of people had Michkov, Cutter Gauthier, Stanky Panky, Celebrini. Celebrini was the top dog, obviously, but
absolutely, yeah.
Lane Hutson comes in, man, and he doesn't just win it, but he wins it by an absolute landslide. And I don't know, I'm just so proud of him right now. He's a rink rat. Somebody sent me an email there a couple of days ago. I haven't emailed him back yet, but he said he was at Brassard at the sports complex. This was 2 days ago, and he said everybody was about to get kicked out, but like one of the staff members there mentioned him, you could stay behind for a bit or whatever and see who's on the ice. It's like almost like a surprise for this young kid.
Yeah.
And when he looked, Hutson and Demidov were on the ice together skating around, and just the two of them. And he sent me some videos of it. I gotta upload those. But yeah, just two of them are going around the ice. Yeah, like just a big bromance going on already. They're just going to pop off next season.
Build that chemistry, right? Imagine those guys. Like, if they build chemistry together. And, but yeah, I mean, they did an interview with Hutson yesterday, I think, after the Calder was announced. And he was at the rink. Like, hockey sticks in the background. I mean, this is, the beginning of his offseason. So, talent is great, and you need that, and we've been lacking the talent for sure in the Montreal Canadiens organization. But it goes beyond that with these guys to a certain extent, and it's still early in their careers. Things can change, but the character is obviously there. Like, you take his talent, but then add on that work ethic, that kind of mentality that he doesn't want to take any days off, and he wants to get better, and he wants to build on the parts of his game he needs to build on. I mean, you can't instill that in somebody. You can't instill the smarts and the personality that Nick Suzuki has in people. That's you have that or you don't, that leadership. Slavkovsky seems like he's got that same selfless kind of on for the team. I'm going to make myself better mentality. All these young guys who are there, we talk about character and you talk about drafting for character. You need the skill. You got to have the skill. But when skill has character, when skill has work ethic, that's when you can create something special. You know what I mean? And I think Montreal, don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I think Montreal has that in this young core. It's not only good, young, talented core, it's a core with the right mindset, it's a core with the right work ethic. So it's very promising for the future.
Future is looking great. And looking at the two teams that are in the playoffs right now, the two teams remaining, Edmonton and Florida, and I'm looking at a team like Florida, man. And that team, like, when you look at Edmonton, Edmonton's got the skill, right? They got the skill, they got the star players. Florida's got, they got some skill, but they got so many rats and so many greasy players, and it works. And
it works, man.
I'd like to see the Canadiens fill some holes with some of these guys over the next few seasons. You know what I mean? I'd kind of like to see them build. Like, they got a lot of smaller players. There's a lot of trade rumors right now. There's a lot of talk about guys like Marco Rossi. There's a lot of talk about Gary Green. I'm just kidding. There's a lot of talk about everyone, man. But like, I'd like to see him, just plug the holes with some big dirty bastards.
Beef.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beef them up.
Yeah, you got to find. I find like this time of the rebuild for Montreal, and you say you're getting towards the end of it, and no doubt you are getting like towards the end of the rebuild, anyways. But I find teams that fail in the rebuild, I find at this point they start chasing. You know what I mean? Like, they get an idea in their head that they want a type player, and they chase it. They overpay for it. They make moves maybe they shouldn't make. I'm picturing like Detroit bringing in DeBrincat, or Ottawa bringing in DeBrincat, bringing in pieces like that. You want goal scoring, so you go out and you get it. But the fit's not always right. You know what I mean? And it's like, maybe we pushed it a little bit. So I feel like you're exactly right. Like, that is the type of guy that we need. But you can't chase it. Like, you got to wait for it to be there to get it. You look at the Leafs trying to put toughness and size into their lineup, and they get a guy, like Simmons in their lineup. But he's big and he's strong, but he can't play hockey. He can't play in your top six. He's not going to be on the ice when your stars are getting bullied, because he's not a star. He's not good enough to play with those guys. So, like, we need, like, you're exactly right. Like, we need grit. We need a bit of sandpaper, a bit of beef up the middle. There's no doubt about that. But you can't get too blinded by it, I don't think, because I think that's when you get in trouble. You sacrifice skill, or you sacrifice speed, or you sacrifice youth to get bigger. But if bigger can't play, then it's not doing you any good. So you're exactly right. We just got to be careful. Like, it'd be great if it was this season, but it doesn't need to be this season unless it's
someone's going to overpay for Sam Bennett this year.
Oh, 100%.
There's going to be a massive bidding war.
Montreal can afford to overpay for Sam Bennett. And, like, he fits. He's not overly big, but he plays big. He plays with lots of grit and sandpaper. He's not old by any stretch of imagination. He's rounding into the kind of prime of his career right now. He's been consistent since he's been in Florida. It's not like he's a flash in the pan. So a guy like that, I don't have any issue with that. But, like, again, someone is going to, I'd say, unless he finds a spot he wants to go,
14 goals in 20 playoff games.
20 points as well.
Yeah.
And big, like, massive goals.
Oh, yeah. And just a beast, too. And just hurting people. Like, God.
Yeah, like, he's exactly what you need.
He is, yeah.
And you look at Florida, man. Florida's got Sam Bennett, who's, like, pissed, shithead, agitator extraordinaire, but still is going to score, put up 20 points, 20 games in the playoffs. Come on, give me a break. And then they bring in Brad Marchand, like, one of the biggest pests ever known to hockey, who also can score goals and has been, has a history of scoring in the playoffs and is keeping that history going right now. And
he's doing wicked.
Yeah, and then you got Tkachuk there, who's, his game has maybe been not where he wants it to be, but still he's an agitator. He plays with that grit and that sandpaper. Barkov, not the most, not superstar talent, but just all around fantastic, can defend. He just won the Selke Trophy. That's the guy you're surrounded with, who can also play big, and he's so hard to move out the puck. So that is a gritty core, man. And it's funny how the league shifts, right? Like, that's the thing about Florida that I find interesting, is that the last, say, 5 years especially, the league has been caught up on possession. It's been about possession, holding on to the puck, transitioning with control from zone to zone. And now you got the Panthers 2 years in a row. Now they're in the Stanley Cup Final for their second year. And they don't give a shit about transitioning from zone to zone with control. Maybe out of their own zone, but into the offensive zone. They're dumping it in, and they're just pounding you. Just pounding you. And which it goes and flies in the face of everything that every other team has been trying to do for the last, five seasons. Is they want controlled entries. They want to control the puck over the line. And Florida's just like, nah, we'll just throw it in there and just beat the shit out of teams. And then when they do, when you get that turnover and they get the puck in the offensive zone, they cycle it on you and they wear you down and they wear you down. And then they got a little bit of talent there on top of that can finish. And it's I find that because it's a copycat league. So how many teams are you going to see shift away from this possession game now to this dump and chase like old school hockey? Which is
you could
ironic.
see it.
You know what I mean?
You could see it, man. Yeah.
But you got to have personnel to do that. But still, like
you do.
That's how you see it. Like that's how you see the league shift, right?
Yeah. But like looking at the Habs, like you could see Slavkovsky doing something like that, right? He's a crash and bang style player. He was doing that a bit in the playoffs too. Man, I loved his game towards the end of the season in the playoffs. Slavkovsky is such a beast, man. Holy shit. I can't believe people still rip on Slavkovsky. Like he's I don't know why people got this fascination that he's going to be the next Connor. Like just because he's picked first overall doesn't mean he's going to be 100-point player. That doesn't mean shit. But he's going to be just as effective as a lot of the star players come playoff time because he's got that big frame and he's the way he's developing, man. He's developing into a beast that way.
And again, he's willing to take that on. Like he recognizes that in himself after the Four Nations Cup. Like he said, like that's the way I want to play. I want to play like the Kachuk brothers. You know what I mean? Now, whether he'll ever be that effective, I couldn't say. I'd like for him to be, obviously, but he recognized that he needs to play that way, and he's willing to do that. And like I said, I think he does. Like you said, it doesn't matter if he's first overall. Sam Bennett wasn't picked first overall. And Sam Bennett's not all skill, but he's got 20 points in 20 playoff games, and he's on a second Stanley Cup run in 2 years. You know what I mean? So, that's what wins championships.
Oh, yeah. I'd take Sam Bennett on my team over a lot of stars in the league. Most of the stars in the league in the playoffs. Like he's the man. Oh, twice on Sunday.
Playoff Austin Matthews versus playoff Sam Bennett.
You know what's funny though? We're witnessing it, man. It's about to happen. The fall of the Maple Leafs is upon us.
From your lips.
Oh, it is, man. It's happening. Mitch Marner's not going to be back, and if they go out and overpay for Sam Bennett, I don't know. Like I get that feeling, like deep down inside, like it's going to be David Clarkson all over again.
Oh no way! It can be
I know, man. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
There'll be a lot of people hoping for that, though.
Oh, me. 100%.
Yeah, no. Well, I can't. I mean, every player who ever goes to free agency is always linked to the Leafs. I mean, it could happen. Could he end up in Toronto? I guess. But I don't see that. Can you see that?
Listen, no, man. Sit back, pop the popcorn. Brad Treliving is going to have a shit ton of money going into free agency. A shit ton. And the more money that he's got to play with is the more opportunity for him to screw it all up. I'm telling you, it's just like giving your kid like $1,000 and let them walk into a store, like some kind of stupid shop. You know what I mean? In the back of your head, you're thinking, he's gonna fuck it all up. And that's exactly what Brad Treliving is about to do. He's like a 4-year-old right now with $1,000 in his pocket, walking into some stupid shop. That's what he's doing. And I can't wait to see what he walks out with. I can't wait to see him what he's got in his hands when he walks out of free agency.
Well, you look at the guys they added at the trade deadline, completely ineffective in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, and they gave up half of their prospects to get them, right? And picks. Like they got nothing left, man. Bare bones.
Nothing. Yeah, like Florida brings in Brad Marchand at the deadline. He's got, he's scoring. I mean, he's got 3 goals in 3 games in the Stanley Cup Final right now. Or maybe more than that.
Oh, he's on a roll.
Yeah. And then the defenseman they brought in too, not Ekblad. Seth Jones.
Jones, yeah, man.
those are the two additions. And Jones has got, I don't know how many, he must have 6 or 7 goals through the playoffs right now. And Marchand's got 3 goals in the final. So, I mean, it's crazy, man. Like,
and the Leafs brought in Scott Laughton or whatever his name is, and it was like
Lawton?
Yeah, Lawton.
From Melrose.
From Melrose. And everybody was like, they blew it right out of proportion, man. It was all over the news.
Absolutely.
CNN,
he was going to be the difference maker.
Oh, yeah. He was going to be everything. And look what happened. Another early elimination. Second round.
Beautiful.
Second round don't mean shit, man. If you ain't at least getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, just sit down.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have never played a game in the 3rd round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Holy shit.
Think about it.
Holy shit. That's deep, man.
The last time they made the Stanley Cup Finals, there was only 2 rounds.
Holy shit. That's something, Gary.
They've been in the league for 90 years.
My God. They suck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like over and over again.
Over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day. Their fans must feel like it's Groundhog Day all the time, man.
It's
just they find new and amazing ways to disappoint that fan base. I almost feel bad for them. There's times I almost feel bad for them.
I was enjoying it, though.
Oh, me too. My wife's a Leaf fan, though, so I got to pretend not to. It's real hard sometimes. It's so hard.
Man, I can't even imagine that.
Get them next time, honey.
That must make some interesting conversations around the house, though.
Oh, but luckily 3 of my boys are Habs fans, so it's okay.
Well, you're doing something right.
I think so.
Yeah, you're doing lots right.
I try.
You're doing lots right. So who do you think's going to win the cup? Edmonton, Florida. Who do you think's got it? I mean, Florida's up 2-1 now. Florida was up by a few games last year, and I thought the Oilers were toast, but they managed to come back and push it to 7 games. So it was a tight game right at the very end. But this year, man,
obviously, I would love for Edmonton to win the cup this year.
Yeah,
I think it's a good year for a Canadian fan base to win the Stanley Cup. I think it'd be good for the country, good for hockey, good for Connor McDavid, who deserves a Stanley Cup. So that's who I would like to win it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think they still could. A lot's going to depend on that game tomorrow night. Like if they come out and they win game 4, I think their chance to win the cup go up exponentially. I mean, that's Captain Obvious on that one too. But man, Florida is they're rolling, They are rolling. And they dominated game 3. From puck drops, now some bad calls, some bad plays, some bad bounces, but they dominated game 3. So, it depends. But if I had put money on it right now, maybe we do a beer bet of the week on it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll put a dozen beer on the Florida Panthers.
Winning? All right.
Yeah.
Sure, let's do it. Now I really want to see the Oilers win even more. More than ever.
And now. I do too. I'd sacrifice a dozen beer.
Yeah, you would.
But I don't know. Florida, man, they just find a way to win. Even when it seems like a team's got them figured out, or it just seems like they just shift gears a little bit or tweak a little thing here or there. Paul Maurice is a fantastic coach. And as the saying goes, you show me a good coach and I'll show you a good goaltender. And Sergei Bobrovsky is consistent. He, sometimes he lets a scatter goal in, or maybe he has one bad game here or there, but by and large, man, he's consistent. And the Oilers can't really say the same in their net. Like Skinner has had some fantastic games, and he's played good hockey down the stretch, but consistent he's not. So what we're going to get in game 4? Are we going to get shutout Skinner? Or are we going to get 870 save percentage Skinner? I don't know. And that combined with the way Florida played them in the last game, I put a dozen beer on the Panthers.
Man, when Skinner's bad, Skinner is bad. He's real bad. There's no in between. He's either lights out, balls to the walls, or just in the shitter.
Absolutely.
It's one or the other with that guy. I don't know what it is, but hopefully he bounces back, man, and has a good game 4.
And he has bounced back all playoffs.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
Yes.
he's been doing pretty good.
There's no
He's
reason
actually shocked me a little bit.
Oh, me too. Like that first round when he pitched like 2 shutouts to finish off the first round of the playoffs, I was like,
yeah,
that's not a story I thought we'd be telling. You know what I mean?
No.
And I think he was lights out for the last few rounds. Just, he didn't have a great game last game, period. And games 1 and 2 went to overtime. And honestly, I thought Edmonton was the better team in both of those games. So, it's going to, obviously, it's anybody's series. And game 4 is pivotal. When it's like this the way it is, game 4 is always a pivotal game in the series. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But like you said, I'm putting a dozen beer on Florida Panthers. So here we go. All
right. So it looks like I got a dozen beer on the Edmonton Oilers. Now, Gary, we got a shit ton of trade rumors going on. I don't know if you noticed, but every single day there's a new guy that's been linked to the Canadiens, man. It's getting to a point you pick a player, pick any player, and can't use his phone about him or something. That's the way it feels almost, right? Obviously, they're looking for a centerman, somebody to play. I think Elliot Friedman on 32 Todd's podcast said today that he really expects them to look for somebody to play with Demidov. He's looking at Demidov right now, and he's saying who would fit that line with Demidov. And for some reason, over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talk about defensemen, too. We've seen Nicholas Haig's name recently brought up.
Yeah.
Kind of a strange one. Like, yeah, big guy, big presence on the ice, more of a third-pairing defenseman in Vegas. But at the same time, like, he probably gets more minutes with the Canadiens if he's there. But, I mean...
Talks about him in, like a David Savard replacement. A
third-pairing type of guy. It's too bad he doesn't shoot right, though. I know he plays on the right side a bit, but I don't know. Maybe we can teach him to shoot right. It's not too late.
I mean,
not asking for much.
Gary Green can do it.
Yeah, Gary Green could do it. He was out there with a straight blade.
Doesn't matter. Switch it.
Yeah. A lot of nasty backhand with that straight blade. But you know what, though? Like, Who do you see the Habs getting? I've seen everybody's name getting brought up. Marchessault.
Well, you talk about Vegas. Carlson was mentioned too, like a package in those two, right?
He'd be a big ad.
Honestly, man, and this is going to sound like a bit of a cop-out, but with Hughes' track record, it could be anybody. Like, it's not necessarily rumors don't mean shit. Like, if they do pull the trigger on a center, it's probably going to be out of left field, like something that nobody saw coming, no one even knew was on the market. Like, that's the way he rolls. And so I could easily see that. I could see Sam Bennett signing in Montreal. Like, that could happen. Like, they got the cap space now. He's something they need. He's a bit older, a little bit older. He is a bit older, but that wouldn't surprise me. A trade, to one of those, like to Vegas for Carlson and the defenseman there, and that wouldn't surprise me either with a package, because I think the rumor out of Vegas is that they want to clear cap space because they want to make a run at Marner. So I mean, we could also help the Leafs lose Marner, which adds a little bit to me. Like, I like that too.
I do too.
And to me, like that's more of a. To me, that move with Vegas is more of a short-term kind of plug some holes without spending too much money or too much capital. But you're not married to either one of those guys. I think Carlson's only got 2 years left on his contract, and it's not an insane cap hit. And I think, what's the defenseman again?
Nick
Cage. Yeah. So I think same thing. I don't know exactly, but I don't think he's not a large cap hit. It's not a big term. So both of those guys would plug holes in the short term that we need plugged, and not just plug them in like a wishy-washy way, but do a good job of, I think, filling those holes, at least compared to who was doing it last year for Montreal. And at the same time, not marry you to a guy long-term or pin you down long-term. So I wouldn't mind that deal, actually, as long as the price was right. You're not giving up any elite prospects to make that happen. I would probably give up 17, like the 17th pick in this draft. I wouldn't mind that because we had 16 there. And you take a swing at a guy like maybe Carter Bear or someone like that, or I mean, a million different players who could be there. So that wouldn't break my heart. Who else? I mean, we talked about Shane Wright. We talked about, there's a bunch of different guys out there that we've discussed in the past that could come in, not necessarily, be the guy all time, but could do a job of filling that role. Who do you see? Who do you predict they're going to make a move for?
Man, same here. Like it's going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be unrestricted free agent. I don't know why. It just hasn't been done. Like they haven't really been grabbing a big name free agent in a long time. You know what I mean? Like a really big one. Now, Sam Bennett is obviously one of the bigger names. Mitch Marner is one of the bigger names. He's not going anywhere in Canada. I don't care what anyone says. Mitch Marner is going below the border there for sure. I don't know why, but I keep thinking about a guy like Mikael Granlund, someone like that. Someone to plug in on the second line. Wouldn't be a bad idea, right? But I'm gonna pitch something to you now. You mentioned about Carlson and Haig. So imagine if Kent Hughes phoned you up right now. He said, Gary Green, listen, I've been watching your game. You're excellent. I'm looking for your expertise here. And he says, I'm going to give you an ultimatum. If I trade, I'm going to give you a choice. Either trade for Haig and Carlson, or package up the 2 picks and move up in the draft. Would you rather get like immediate help right now, or would you rather skyrocket up the draft? I'm talking like top 7, top 6 in the draft with 2 of those first rounders, and maybe like some kind of toss in. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, like kidney. Like give him a kidney.
We toss in?
Yeah, we'll throw him a kidney. We're not saying it's Riley. We're not saying it's Riley kidney. It could be
left kidney, right kidney.
Could be Bob Arn's kidney. Could be anyone's kidney, right?
Okay, he had no spare parts left. That kid. Yeah, I mean, there's talks that
Roger McQueen's been slipping a little bit. Big dude.
Yeah. I mean, if you can move up into the top 7, and it seems there's a lot of centers kicking around there too. Like, and in my opinion, there's a defenseman going first overall in Schaefer, obviously. I think there usually is at least one defenseman slip into that top 5 that no one expects, or, that kind of pushes a forward down just because the team is looking for that. So, I mean, if you can get in around 7, you look at the players that have gone there. I mean, Mishkov went 7 recently. There's a lot of good players been slipping in the draft the last little while. Yeah. I think I'd prefer over that Vegas deal. I'd prefer to move up.
Yeah,
I think so, because I don't think either one of those players moves the needle long term for Montreal. They might feel like a hole in the short term, but I don't think it moves the needle. Now, to me, honestly, I don't think that's an and/or scenario. I think you could do both. I think you could package that up and move up and still make a deal for those guys with Vegas. Like, I think Montreal's got the assets to do that.
Imagine if he just knocked it out of the park 2 times.
I could see that. Like, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, I mean, if you look at if the rumors out of Vegas are true that they're looking to kind of to dump some salary, Montreal could give them. All right, here's one for you. Would you do trade 2 of those players or 2 of those picks, move up, pick 7?
Yeah.
Trade Logan Mailloux for those guys and a second rounder.
For who? For Haig?
For Haig, and Carlson.
Jeez.
Like, I'm not trading just for the D is not, to me, and we talked about this before, like, the D is not, everyone's talking about right D in Montreal. And I think between now and when they're a contender, they're going to need to address the right D situation. To me, that doesn't need to be this offseason. I think they got some young guys that are there. You can get a right D off free agency to replace David Savard. And, I don't think that's a pressing issue. That 2C is my pressing issue.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but I'd rather I'd rather not do it with Mailloux if I could.
Or
see,
even
Mayu is getting tossed around in every trade rumor lately. I don't know if you noticed that. Isn't he? Gary.
Yeah.
You there now?
I got you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's getting tossed around in every trade rumor, eh? Mayu.
He is.
You notice that?
I don't want to trade. I don't want to trade Mayu. I was just his name is the one that's kind of out there as someone who's. Well, the thing is, Mayu 100%. Is that he just got value. You know what I mean? Like we talked about a couple years ago, trading not Petrie, trade Matheson over Savard. Is that not that we like Matheson less? It's just Matheson's got more value. So if you want to move the needle of the franchise moving forward, you got to trade somebody with value to get something with value back, or get really lucky in like a draft pick or something like that. So to me, Mayu, and I think that's where a lot of people come in, is that he's got value right now. And generally people know that Montreal didn't, or not Montreal, but Hughes didn't draft Mayu. And there's some baggage there, and so I think that he's a piece that people feel that Montreal wouldn't be heartbroken, or Hughes wouldn't be heartbroken to part with. Now, it could be the biggest mistake. It could be your next, Sergachev or Ryan McDonough by moving Logan Mailloux. It could be, because he's got a ton of potential. He's big, he's strong, he skates well, he shoots puck well, and he's figuring out the defensive side of the game better. So why I put his name out there is because his name has been out there.
It has, yeah. And that's why I'm kind of skeptical, because again, he's a right defenseman. I look at the left side, man, I just see so many names, from Jackeye to Struble, Gooley, Hutson. These guys are all NHLers already. Like we haven't even touched on Laval yet and the playoffs. But Engstrom, again, man, wicked. William Trudeau's been under the radar over the past couple of seasons. Every time I'm watching Laval, he always stands out a little bit. He's got that edge, that bit of spite in his game. I like his game. And Engstrom just had a crazy good season. So the left side, I keep looking at the left side, and I'm seeing more players that you could possibly throw into a deal. But then on the right side, I don't know. Yeah, there's less players, and I'm not overconfident on any of them now. And you just talked about all the good things about Mailloux, and you're right. He could go on. He could be the next Sergachev. He could be the next big mistake that the Canadiens traded away. But
on defense,
yeah. But at the same time, he might not be any of those things. But is it a risk you're willing to take when you got so many small parts on the right side, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The other side of it is the Sergachev deal is bad because Drouin didn't work out.
No,
the McDonough trade is bad because Camilleri and Gomez didn't win a Stanley Cup. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you trade one of these young defensemen who has potential, it got to work. You know what I mean? The guy you bring back has to be the guy that works out.
A piece.
At least he works out as well. You know what I mean? You can't come out on the losing end of that in the worst kind of way again, which they have traditionally in the past. So to me, I mean, that's why when we talk about right side D in Montreal, and I said like next season, yes, fine, you need a guy to plug in there. But like long term, there's only 3 right shooting defensemen going to play in Montreal. And you got Reinbacher and you got Mailloux, and so if you figure those guys are going first pairing, second pairing, you need a third pairing right shot defenseman is what you're looking for. And I got to feel like you can get those guys in free agency if you need them, or in a trade. That's not going to cost you your shirt. So next year, yes, they need some help on the right side on D, which is why, like I said, a guy like Hage works, because short-term contract, not too much cap space, it'll expire to make room for the young guys. But to go out and blow a big amount of cap, unless you know you're trading one of those guys, like unless you know you're trading Mailloux, then I don't see the value in it.
I get what you're saying.
You picking up what I'm putting down?
Oh yeah, I'm picking it up. Yep. No, it makes good sense though. If they can bring back a piece, like an actual piece, then yeah, geez. Do you think there's a chance that Kent Hughes does nothing this summer? There's always that chance. You don't think so? I'd like to see him at least bring in a top 6 forward. If they're going into next season again.
Yeah. I don't know what that piece is going to be playing on the second line.
No.
But I'd bet, we already made our bet for today, and this is going to be long term, but like I bet a lot that there's a new second line center in Montreal next season, whether that's free agency, whether it's a trade, and not necessarily a massive fish. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's going to be a superstar or the center of the future for Montreal, but there's going to be someone to come in and play that role because there's nobody in the organization who can do it now. Kirby Dach is obviously the one people saying, well, what about Kirby Dach? But, you know, you can't go into the season, I don't think, banking that Kirby Dach is going to be that guy. If you go into the season and Kirby Dach does turn out to be that guy, and you have a centerman that can play, you know, ahead of him or behind him in the lineup, then it's gravy. You know, then that's just bonus. But you can't go into the season banking on Kirby Dach to be your number 2 center, because you're begging for regression, I think, if you do that. So I think, and Hughes knows that as well as anybody does, and Gordon as well as much as said that in his season in the press conference, you know, that Kirby's got to have a great offseason and got to come into the season swinging. Didn't seem like a guy who was oozing with confidence that he would do that. No,
and I'm not. I don't know, man. Doc's kind of like a touchy subject in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, geez, 1 minute last year I had some high hopes for Kirby Dach. He was coming back off injury. I knew it was going to take a bit for him to get his feet going again, but he played quite a few games and he just never really did progress at all. And then now he's hurt again long term.
Yeah.
He's going to be back again next season.
Yeah, it's the story that never ends. And next season is a contract year for him. Yeah. So I don't know if that influences things or not. Next season is a contract year for Patrick Laine. We haven't talked about the enigma on left wing there. That is Patrick Laine. So, you know, what happens with him? You know, does he come in and after a full season of being healthy, he wasn't, a full off season of being healthy and finishing the season with at least his legs healthy so he can train. I know he had the broken finger or whatever he had going on there at the end of the season. Does he look a bit faster? Does his skating kind of take it up a notch? Because it needs to if he wants to be competitive next season. Does he look like a faster, leaner, stronger hockey player next year? And does he earn himself a contract somewhere else, or does he have another season where he's gone up and down and looks slow and looks 10 years older than he actually is?
I wonder what finger he broke. I don't know what that's
Is it one of his gaming fingers?
The shooting finger. Fuck.
You're special, you know that.
I don't know what I was thinking about it. As soon as you said it, I was like, I wonder what finger it was. Imagine being on a media scrum talking to him. And he's like, yeah, I actually broke the finger. You're like, what one?
This one.
Give me that, you little shit.
Oh, all right. You watch more Laval hockey than I do.
Yeah.
You look at your Laval roster. Who do you see out of that roster playing a steady and productive role in Montreal next year?
Next year?
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's either going to come down. It's going to be one of the defensemen, I think. Reinbacher or Mayu. Whoever has a better camp. And you ask a lot of people, and they're saying that Reinbacher's got the edge right now. He, during the end of the season, he played really good. And Mayu was struggling there for a little bit. But I think it's all going to come down to training camp. Whichever one of these guys grabs the ball by the horns is going to get it. And he's going to run with it.
I think Mayu had a good playoff, minus maybe that final round. He kind of, he got exposed a little bit in that final round. But
everybody looked like shit, eh? That round.
It did, which was too bad. There's a lot of hype going into that round for them. And maybe like the moment, I think, maybe caught up to him a little bit there as a young team. But I mean, I would say my money would be on Reinbacher. I think the league's they've had an investment in him a little bit, but it all depends on his camp. Because if he doesn't look ready, then I think they're not going to rush him either. And Maillout's got a couple of years of experience on Reinbacher too. Well, not so much professional experience, I suppose, because Reinbacher played over in Europe, but he's been with the organization here. He's been drafted longer than Maillout or than Reinbacher. So either one of those guys is not a bad choice. And there's also the opportunity factor. There's a space there on the right side. So, they're going to get the first chance to fill that unless there's a trade that we talked about. On the forward end, I got to feel like Owen Beck or a Kapanen have an inside track there, hey?
Yeah, me too. A lot of it depends on the UFAs too. I don't know what they're doing with like Dvorak and Armia.
What do you think?
There's a lot of what ifs, right? There's a lot of what ifs, and maybe they go a different route. But yeah, one of those guys are probably going to make it for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Florian Jacki gets a sniff. Maybe not like we're talking about regulars here, but I can see Jacki getting a sniff. Maybe like 4 or 5 games, 4 to 6 games, some point throughout the season.
I found it interesting. I was watching some of the Laval Racket coverage, and Jacki played center for part of the season. He wasn't traditionally center, and they trusted him there and played him up the middle, and by all accounts adapted well. We talked about beef in the lineup. I mean,
there's your beef, man.
Me of it, right? If you want a guy who can play hockey, and he can kind of what we talk about. Arbor bringing on the back end, if he can bring that to the center ice position in Montreal, that's a big deal, right?
Oh, what a piece.
And we talk about the second line center role, and that's kind of up in the air. But if Dvorak leaves, really you got a second and a third line center position that's there for the taking, right? So whether it be Owen Beck, Oliver Kapanen, or Florian Jacki, kind of 3 of those guys could potentially come in and earn a role there playing up the middle. Jake Evans, I think he's got his spot on the third or fourth line, depending on where they want to put him. He's a bit of a utility knife right now, and I think even though he signed his extension and kind of fell off the earth there towards the end of the season, I think he still plays that role really well. So one of those guys, and I mean look at Arbor when he came in to the season. I don't want to make that the same player, but there's a lot of parallels there. And that first season when Arbor came in to training camp, and it was like, he's going to come in and then he's, going to go back down to the AHL, learn the game down there. And he just never went down to the AHL. What are the chances Arbor comes up and does that same thing in the forward group? There's a spot there for a guy who can play up the middle and's got some size and got some touch. So it'd be interesting to see. And you picture him on a line with Gallagher and Josh Anderson. That's a big, beefy line who could make some noise.
Man. That would be.
It's a lot. He brings something that none of those other guys bring. Love Owen Beck. Great two-way guy. I think he's going to have a long and healthy future in the NHL. But he doesn't have that element to his game. He does have a bit of meanness to his game. He's got to be, and he played a really good in the playoffs for Laval down the stretch as well. But he doesn't have that grit, that size that Florian Jacki brings.
Florian Jacki is exciting, man. He's the kind of guy who puts asses into the seats, just like his brother. And you brought up RB too when he came into the league. Nobody expected him to make the team out of training camp. I didn't expect it. I don't know if his parents expected it, man. He didn't expect it. He just came in and he made the best of his opportunity. And the team saw that. He managed to stick around. And Florian Jacki, and that goes for anyone at training camp. It just goes to show if you show up, you put your head down, dig deep, you can make the team, man. Me Absolutely or you, even.
Wow, Gary Green, maybe.
yeah. Gary Green's got the inside track.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. Playing up the middle for sure. But yeah, so I mean, either of those guys, it's to me like that's your biggest is that right side D or up the middle is where a guy's going to potential to make the team at Laval, and either of those guys. But I thought Jacki moving the center and being able to adapt and play in that role, and it just shows how much growth he's got, the potential he's got. You know what I mean? To come in from junior, where he was playing a little bit of center, a little bit of wing, and then come into professional hockey, where most times you see guys shift away from the middle because they don't possess the tools to do that. Instead, he shifts towards the middle more consistently and develops and learns how to play that position. It says a lot about a guy who's coachable, right? And I mean, that's awesome.
He's a beauty, and he's been used in every situation: power play, penalty kill. God, he could have even put him in net.
That's the only place he didn't play.
Yeah, throw him in the net.
He played on the fourth line. He played on the first line this season in Laval. So I mean, it's he's interesting. Man. They called him a unicorn when they drafted him. I think 100% that's what he is. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him in the offseason. And again, obviously, how much opportunity is going to be there is going to depend large in part on what moves Montreal makes. Like, do they bring in a center? Like, do they not bring in a center? I think they will, but is that second line center going to be up for grabs, or is it just going to be that third line, fourth line position that's going to be jostled over on how many positions are available there? So it's going to be, a hell of an interesting offseason.
It is, and we're going to be here for every minute of it, aren't we, Gary?
Yes.
Well, seriously, we got to do some more of these over the summer. This has been good. Yeah,
we discussed we're going to do a live stream at a draft.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one,
like we did last year. That'd be a lot of fun. And I mean, the Montreal right now, we talked about it, man. Like, this is the time when you become competitive, or you're on the cusp of becoming competitive. Like, this is the season. These decisions are the ones that become impactful, because when you're starting from the base, if you're building a tower, the first two bricks, if one falls over, it doesn't make much difference. But when your tower's halfway built and it tips over, it's a shit show. So right now our tower's halfway built, and one wrong step one way or the other, and it can come crashing down quickly. And we've seen that. We've seen it in Buffalo. We've seen it to a lesser extent. Ottawa righted the ship, but it looked like they were going that way for a little while.
Toronto's is teetering right now.
Yeah, Toronto was high, and a couple of little mistakes. And I mean, to me, we've had a discussion before, but the mistakes the Leafs made were, 6 years ago, and they're feeling the repercussions of those mistakes still. Like the Tavares trade or signing, to me, was the beginning of their troubles there. And I'm not going to get into that chain of thinking, but to me, it never righted after that. It threw off the dynamic of their tower block, and it has never, and it's wobbling now, and it's going to fall over. Fingers crossed. But this is the time where, like, one wrong step and your tower starts to wobble. So it's about continuing to build that good foundation, and then move it up at the same time.
Gotta love it, man. Lots of things to look forward to, but
absolutely,
I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Fix Podcast. What do you say, Gary?
What else could you ask for?
What else could you ask for? We touched on absolutely everything. That's going to do it for this episode. If anybody knows what finger it is, you can let us know in the comment section. We'd love to know. Everybody wants to know what finger it is. And from Hockey Junkie and GK, well, we'll see you next time.